Hi, this is Michael Hanscom, the mystery student on the other side of the mountains. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the considerations we face when tutoring students electronically. As the educational world continues to incorporate technology into its curriculum, e-tutoring is becoming more and more common. Satellite campuses are often one of the key markets for incorporating some form of electronic tutoring methodology. Students attending satellite campuses often have more restrictions on their time than traditional on-campus students. Rather than living on campus in dorms within walking distance of the University Writing Center and concentrating primarily on school, they're often juggling school with families, children, full-time jobs, and frequently battling rush hour traffic to get from their workplace to school in time for evening classes. Additionally, the smaller satellite campuses have fewer resources. In our case, the CWU Westside campuses have 3 tutors for Des Moines, 1 at Pierce and 1 at Linwood. The Des Moines Center is the only one open full-time, the other 2 are staffed only 10 hours a week. Many students, especially those at Pierce and Linwood, are unable to schedule in-person appointments that coincide both with their schedule and the center's schedule. In situations like this, in order to be able to provide Writing Center services to as many students as possible, e-tutoring becomes a necessity, not a luxury. Today, there are a number of possible methods of e-tutoring. Asynchronous methods include email, one of the easiest and most common methods, electronic bulletin board systems, discussion forums, or specialized custom database-backed websites. Synchronous methods include text-only chat, such as can be provided by instant messenger clients, telephone, traditional video conferencing, screen viewing, where one party can see but not interact with the other party's computer screen, or screen sharing, where both parties can interact with the displayed document regardless of whose computer it resides on. While everyone has their preferences, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to e-tutoring. A 2005 study of distance education students found that students who prefer asynchronous methodologies have a high desire for autonomy and prefer self-directed learning, while students who prefer synchronous methods have strong feelings regarding the positive benefits of personal interaction and learn well through the spontaneous give and take of conversation. Admittedly, it's not a particularly surprising conclusion, but it's worth keeping in mind. Due to the needs of the West Side Writing Centers and our students, and after consultation with the main CWU Writing Center, we've finalized on 2 technologies. We're using Skype for synchronous e-tutoring because of its ability to handle text chat, audio and video conferencing, and screen viewing, though to date it's been useful more as a convenient means of contacting the other writing centers than as a tutoring tool, and email for asynchronous tutoring. We are limiting our email-based tutoring opportunities to students at Pierce and Linwood who cannot schedule times with the consultants based on those campuses. Students at Des Moines are asked to schedule in-person appointments as those give the best all-around results. There are 2 major considerations to keep in mind when e-tutoring, especially asynchronously. Tutors need to keep a personal touch, and remember to continue to tutor the students, don't just edit the papers and send them back. Keeping the personal touch, why is that even important, and how can we manage that through electronic tutoring? In a 2004 study comparing traditional in-person consultations and electronic consultations, students admitted a preference for the traditional face-to-face oral sessions. This isn't much of a surprise for a number of reasons. In-person tutoring is the norm, there are similarities between the tutor-student relationship and the classroom teacher-student relationship that can be comforting, and there's a lot of nonverbal communication, such as smiles and nods, that help to reassure the student even when the tutor is not speaking. However, students actually showed stronger improvement in their writing and reported receiving more benefits from the online sessions. One of the key possible reasons for this is the permanent record of what was discussed in each tutoring session. With in-person sessions, aside from any notes the student takes as they work with the tutor, there is no record of the session outside of the student's memory, or at CWU, the brief session summary notes. Email-based tutoring allows the student to keep a record of each session, and they can use earlier sessions as reference material. This also allows later tutoring sessions to focus on new material rather than refreshing old material over again. The Westside Centers are working to combine the benefits of e-tutoring with as much personal engagement as we can. Whenever possible, we match returning students with the same tutor who has worked with them in the past. Much as with in-person tutoring, familiarity with personality, writing ability, and knowledge level helps both the tutor and the student during the session. Rather than being overly formal, we strive to use casual, informal language just as we would in conversation. Perhaps most importantly, we make sure to note areas where the student is succeeding, particularly well-written passages or turns of phrase, or areas where we can recognize the work that they're putting into their assignments. Much of this is automatic and often nonverbal in an in-person session, communicated through smiles, nods, or laughter. When working without the benefits of body language, it is especially important to let the student know when they are doing well, rather than returning papers filled with nothing but notations on what they are doing wrong. Of course, while we strive to remain personable and avoid the appearance of assembly line tutoring, consistency is still valuable. Much as how a physical writing center has reference books, handouts, and other guidelines to assist the tutors, while still leaving them free to improvise within their sessions depending upon the needs of the student, templates and standards in e-tutoring allow the tutor to devote their attention to the student's needs. The Westside Writing Centers have developed a few processes with this in mind. At the beginning of every student paper, we insert a standardized welcome letter that introduces the Writing Center and explains what we do and do not do. This is very similar to the welcome script tutors use when introducing a student to the Writing Center on their first physical visit. Just as we avoid writing directly on a student's paper when we are working with them in person, we also do not make direct changes to any documents that have been emailed to us. Instead, we use the Add Comment feature of Microsoft Word's Track Changes option to point out issues, ask guiding questions, and give examples of the kind of changes we are suggesting. As there are certain regularly recurring issues, comma usage, misplaced modifiers, and all the other little things we see every day, we have started collaboratively building a selection of quick, concise explanations that we can refer to and quickly copy and paste into the sessions as we work. Finally, we end each paper with a set of closing comments. Our goal is to both compliment the student on what they're doing well, and to give them one or two areas to concentrate on as they revise the paper. One of the biggest pitfalls of working asynchronously is the potentiality of simply editing the papers instead of doing our job as a tutor. This is extremely easy to do. Without the immediate feedback of questions or conversation, it's very natural to take the easy road and just tell the student what corrections need to be made. This can help the student correct their work, but it doesn't teach the student anything about why those corrections were necessary. Additionally, a 2004 study shows that this type of feedback may not be as helpful as we might like to think. In-person feedback tends to be better at helping students understand the micro-level edits of punctuation, grammar, mechanics, and so on, just the kind of issues we tend to focus on when slipping into the easy mode of editing rather than tutoring. These tend to be more complex and technical matters, and for most students, something that takes a lot of questioning and practice before they feel comfortable. Electronic feedback, however, works extremely well at the macro level of editing, looking at sentences, paragraphs, and concepts, pointing out areas where the student needs to expand on information they mentioned earlier or have not communicated a concept well, for instance. Keeping these issues in mind, the Westside Centers have been working on our approach to asynchronous e-tutoring sessions. We begin by looking at the overall structure of the assignment and seeing if there are any broad, large-scale issues we need to address. Has the student even done the assignment correctly? Does the paper, paragraph, or sentence make sense? Are they accurately conveying their thoughts and reasoning? Generally, we are beginning by focusing on what was written in the paper instead of the technicalities of how the student wrote it. Once we've identified any major structural issues that the student needs to address, then we can go back and start drilling down into the more technical micro-level issues. Recognizing the benefits and potential pitfalls of the e-tutoring sessions and taking them into consideration can go a long way towards finding the best way to work when e-tutoring students. Even if the student is limited to one or another form of e-tutoring, the tutor is better able to adjust their style to best match the student's needs. If there are obvious restrictions, including whether the student is a regular visitor to the Writing Center and whether they are able to use the same tutor over repeated sessions. However, even in one-off sessions with unfamiliar students, tutors who are aware of the considerations of e-tutoring will be better prepared to facilitate a successful tutoring session. So that's everything for me. Hopefully this worked out well since I'm not able to be there in person. Thanks much for your time, and I think that's everything I have to say. Thanks a lot. Bye.